Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. Let's talk. Big time conversation for you guys tonight. In fact, you could say it's a hot one, not a hot take, just a hot conversation. And that is in 2026, Mark Andrews staying in Baltimore, Isaiah Likely leaving Baltimore. This is what I really believe is going to happen. And if you hang with me and listen tight, I will explain why I believe this may be the scenario that we're watching unfold. You see, with how the 2024 season ended, right? It was almost a foregone conclusion that the Baltimore Ravens and Mark Andrews would be parting ways basically within one calendar year. Okay? That would put us in the 2026 free agency offseason. We understand that all three tight ends for the Baltimore Ravens are free agents. Isaiah Likely is the young, dynamic talent of the three. Charlie Kolar has showed a lot of promise, and Mark Andrews is the vet, the trusted vet, but a vet nonetheless, which then left us thinking that, okay, you're going to go with the younger guy who has obvious chemistry with Lamar Jackson. Okay. And then all of a sudden, an Isaiah Likely injury happens. Not to a hand, not to an arm, but to a foot. And we understand that the feet of any athlete is their foundation. If your feet is bad, your whole game is going to be off. Okay? And what this injury did, it kind of pushed Isaiah Likely into third place in that tight end rotation. Why? Because he won't be available, I don't believe, for the first 4 games. That pushes Mark Andrews back to the number 1 spot at tight end, and then Charlie Kolar into place number 2. Now, why would this mean Isaiah Likely is leaving Baltimore? Here's why. So, my number 1 reason is the injury itself. Okay? We understand that the Baltimore Ravens like to deal when they have the advantage, right? There was some speculation right before Isaiah Likely got injured. In fact, there was kind of rumors that were released the same day that Isaiah Likely went down with his injury, that the Baltimore Ravens and Isaiah Likely had been negotiating a new contract extension. Now, those rumors were never validated, not by Isaiah Likely's camp and not by the Baltimore Ravens camp. So we can take them as what? Just rumors, okay? And so if they were not even having conversation heading into basically the midway point of the preseason, and then he gets an injury, and right off we get news the very next day that it's a 6-week injury that would require surgery because of a foot fracture. That's not how the Baltimore Ravens really do it. I mean, you just got to think, there was a lot of times where John Harbaugh does what? Keeps things close to the vest, right? But this injury news popped off very, very quickly. Well, why? Well, let's get the news out before the public, because that creates negotiating power. If the whole world knows that Isaiah Likely has a foot injury, specifically a fracture that requires surgery, they're going to begin to think about him how? As damaged goods. Although he's never had an injury before that kept him out of some games that I can remember. Now, if we get this out, it's going to be 6 weeks right off. That's one clue. That never ever happens. You never get a significant injury and the news pop off and gets released into the national media the very next day. Okay? And so what does that do? What does an injury do to any player in a contract year? It drives their negotiating power down, and it also drives the potential for salary down. Okay, so this injury came at a horrible time for a guy who's trying to get paid. All right. My second reason why I think Isaiah Likely is leaving Baltimore at the end of the 2026 season and Mark Andrews is staying is because of the pay. We have seen tight ends get paid astronomical amounts of money over the last couple of months. McBride being the highest paid tight end, coming in at about $19 million. And at that time when McBride got his payday, the questions began to swirl of how much Isaiah Likely would command. Do you guys remember that? And most of the estimations had Isaiah Likely coming in somewhere between 15 and 16 million, primarily because he had not had the numbers of those other higher paid tight ends. That's just basically because he had not had the opportunity to be the primary go-to guy at the tight end position. He typically splits snaps with Mark Andrews, right? And so the first thing that's going to drive down his price is what? The injury. Number two, the second thing that's going to drive down his price is his numbers. You can't not have good numbers and get paid, but you can't have second tier tight end numbers and a foot injury and get paid. So both of those elements does what? Drops his price down some. Okay. Now, what would devastate his ability to negotiate? What would also devastate his potential salary? If he re-injured it. Think about what I'm saying. If he re-injured it. There is not a play that Isaiah Likely will be on the football field that does not involve that foot. Doesn't. And because of that, because he knows he was a 4th round pick, because he knows he's made some life-changing money, but he wants to make generational money, then as a 4th round pick, he has to capitalize on his first payday, which is typically a player's biggest payday. He's not going to settle for some type of hometown discount, prove it deal like a Rashad Bateman did, because he doesn't have the injury history that Rashad Bateman had, right? And so now the third reason I believe that Isaiah Likely is leaving is because he's not going to be willing to rush back. He knows he has a foot injury, drops his price. He knows that he doesn't have the big numbers, all the potential. He's shown it. Big playability, yards after catch type of receiving tight end. But not having the numbers drives his price down, and a re-injury is going to also drive his price down. So he's not going to rush back. He's not. We will not see Isaiah Likely, in my opinion, until after week 4. See, I understood from the very beginning it was going to be more than a 6-week proposition. But I don't think he comes back before week 4. Only because he is in a get paid year. And any type of setback with that injury, like I said earlier, puts that label on him as damaged goods. And he has to capitalize on his ability to earn and earn now. The only way Isaiah Likely, I believe, is going to stay in Baltimore is if Isaiah Likely gets desperate and takes the next best offer that the Baltimore Ravens offer him. Simply because he understands he has an injury, he understands it's his foot, so any upgrade in salary is better than what you don't know, right? My grandma used to say, a bird in the hand is worth more than 5 in the bush, right? Meaning what you have on the table, what you can absolutely access right now, is better than what you have the potential to access. That's the only way. So what I'm saying to you guys is, if Isaiah Likely has not signed an extension before week 1, there will be no negotiation during the season. Why? There's nothing to negotiate. He's going to be out the first 4 weeks, I believe. You can't negotiate on that. He's going to take time for him to get up to speed and find his rhythm. You ain't negotiating that. So it'll be the second half of the season to when we really see Isaiah Likely be Isaiah Likely. Well, that's not real negotiating power to the Baltimore Ravens when you're only playing half of a season, right? So where does Mark Andrews come in? Well, Mark Andrews comes in right here. All 3 tight ends are free agents, right? Now, if you put all 3 tight ends on the market at the same time, who earns the most money? Isaiah Likely. Without any sign of setback or injury, he earns the most money, which then means Mark Andrews is still going to be highly sought after, but he's going to get probably something in that 8 to 10, 8 to $11 million range, not that 12, 15, $17 million range like Isaiah Likely would command, right? So what does that do? If the Baltimore Ravens can retain Mark Andrews on a low-end deal for 3 years. So let's say 3 years, 30 million, something like that. 3 years, 33 million. They also have the potential then, because of the low deal, to also reach out and grab Charlie Kolar and bring him back. So and he's going to be on a 2 or 3 year deal, probably $4 or $5 million a year, because although he has potential, he has not had an opportunity to really showcase all of what he can do, which keeps his price down, right? Now, let's make all the math make sense. So with Isaiah Likely missing the first 4 games of this season, which is my prediction, Isaiah Likely being in a contract year is not going to rush back and risk any type of setback, which will reduce his ability to earn next year's wage. With Mark Andrews entering his 30s, if Isaiah Likely gets in any type of negotiation dispute, it's going to be easier for the Baltimore Ravens to retain Mark Andrews and grab Charlie Kolar for almost the same price that they would pay the more talented Isaiah Likely. So basically you get a 2-for-1. Here's a question to you guys. Which is the better deal? A $15 million deal, 4 years, $60 million, $15 million a year for Isaiah Likely, or being able to get Mark Andrews and Charlie Kolar for around that same price? When you think about it, the Andrews and Kolar deal sounds a little better. Isaiah Likely is clearly the most talented of the 3, but I also think he's the most likely to be leaving Baltimore for these reasons. This is why I believe that Mark Andrews, with a bounce back type of season, being able to regather the fans, that's bad English because there's no such term as regather, but to bring together the fan base once again, as he is going to put on some clutch performances, make some big time catches. He's going to be one of Lamar Jackson's go-to guys. I think it settles the fan base. And I think it makes it easier to digest the loss of Isaiah Likely, because we understand the level of contract a free agent gets when he leaves a team dictates the compensatory pick that he brings back. If Isaiah Likely leaves and go fetches a $60 million, $15 million a year deal, I think that brings the Baltimore Ravens a 3rd round pick. So this is what I'm thinking. Isaiah Likely is the most likely to be leaving Baltimore in 2026. I'm out.